Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times, a Prancing Pony podcast production. I'm the Man of the West, and it's time to get the 10th series of the TTT underway as we start week 75 with another Middle-earth Map Monday. Now, for the final 2 weeks of the last series, we were looking at places the company encountered on their way down the Great River after leaving Lorien. We talked about the Brownlands, the Undeeps, the Rapids of Sarngebir, and of course, the Argonath. And today we're going to pick up immediately after Aragorn expressed his desire to look upon the likenesses of Isildur and Anarion, his sires of old, because the company's elven boats soon passed out of that chasm and into a wide, clear light. The sun, already long fallen from the noon, was shining in a windy sky. The pent waters spread out into a long oval lake, pale Nen Hithoel, fenced by steep gray hills whose sides were clad with trees, but their heads were bare, cold gleaming in the sunlight. At the far southern end rose 3 peaks. The midmost stood somewhat forward from the others and sundered from them, an island in the waters, about which the flowing river flung pale, shimmering arms. Distant but deep, there came upon the wind a roaring sound, like the roll of thunder heard far away. "Behold, Tol Brandir," said Aragorn, pointing south to the tall peak. "Upon the left stands Amon Law, and upon the right is Amon Hen, the hills of hearing and of sight. In the days of the great kings there were high seats upon them, and watch was kept there. But it is said that no foot of man or beast has ever been set upon Tol Brandir. Ere the shade of night falls, we shall come to them. I hear the endless voice of Rauros calling." There are a lot of places in those 2 paragraphs, but I'm going to try my best to get through all 5, and we'll begin with the long oval lake Nen Hithoel. Based on the scale of Tolkien's maps, the lake's about 20 miles long, north to south, just past the Argonath down to the Rauros Falls, and about 10 miles wide. And the text gives us a clue as to why there's a lake here. The pent waters spread out. So the hills at the south end of this lake create a natural barrier, building up the waters of Nen Hithoel. According to Tolkien's unfinished index, the name for Nen Hithoel is Sindarin for mist-cool water, from Nen meaning water, like in Nanuial for Lake Evendim, or Nurnen for sad water, and the compound Hithoel from Hith, mist as in Hithlum, and oil, O-E-L, meaning cool. Now, this last element doesn't seem to appear anywhere else, but Tolkien says that's what it means in his index, so that's what it means. Now, one of those 3 hills at the south of the lake is a mountain island known as Tol Brandir, essentially inaccessible because of how steeply its sides ascend from the lake's surface. And no, it's not named after the 6th chieftain of the House of Haleth, who was killed by Turin, as the common element brand is here used with a different meaning. Here it is steeple, according to Parma El Delamberon 17, what else, where a similar but different enough meaning is in the name of Brandir, which is lofty or noble. You can see the similarity. Tol Brandir then simply means Isle of the Great Steeples. Now, interestingly, its Mannish name, Tyndrock, contains the archaic English word for spike, T-I-N-D. And I would have thought that was Tindrock, of course. But in his nomenclature, Tolkien pointed out that had T-I-N-D survived into modern English, it would rhyme with find, since it now shows up as tine, meaning prong, the little things on your fork. Thus, the Mannish name for this is pronounced Tyndrock. Now, next is Amon Hlaw, or Amon Law. I'm trying. I'll explain in a minute. It's the Hill of Hearing. The name literally means Hill of Ears, as that L-H-A-W element is plural of L-H-E-W-E-G, hleweg, for ear. Now, that LH sound, according to Tolkien, is the voiceless L sound, the voiceless alveolar lateral fricative. So, from what I could gather, it's supposed to sound like the double L sound in Welsh, which is where you put the tip of your tongue against the back of your teeth like you're going to say L, but then you breathe out like you're going to say H. Huh. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Fortunately, Tolkien adds that this was in the Third Age usually pronounced as L, so I'm not going to break my mouth trying to do this correctly. Amon Law is on the eastern side of the Anduin. The high seat there and on Amon Hen that Aragorn references were built in the days of the great kings. So that means any fortifications atop those hills would be at minimum about 1,000 years old, and probably much older than that. Now, Amon Hen is the westernmost of the three peaks at the south end of Nen Hithoel, and the only one ascended by anybody in the company. Soon, Frodo came out alone on the summit of Amon Hen and halted, gasping for breath. He saw, as through a mist, a wide, flat circle paved with mighty flags and surrounded with a crumbling battlement, and in the middle, set upon 4 carven pillars, was a high seat, reached by a stair of many steps. Up he went and sat upon the ancient chair, feeling like a lost child that had clambered upon the throne of mountain kings. At first he could see little. He seemed to be in a world of mist in which there were only shadows. The ring was upon him. Then here and there the mist gave way, and he saw many visions, small and clear as if they were under his eyes upon a table, and yet remote. There was no sound, only bright living images. The world seemed to have shrunk and fallen silent. He was sitting upon the seat of seeing on Amon Hen, the hill of the eye of the men of Númenor. And while it is often translated hill of sight or hill of seeing, this passage includes the literal translation, hill of the eye, with Hen meaning eye. In a 1959 letter written in response to a reader's question, and then cited by Hammond and Scull in their Reader's Companion, Tolkien wrote that while he didn't know the precise height of Amon Hen, he doubted, quote, if it was much over 1,000 feet, end quote. Likely similar heights, or at least not radically different heights, for Amon Hlá and possibly Tol Brandir. Now, looks like we've run out of time for today, so we will get to the Falls of Rauros next time, along with Parth Galen, before we head into Rohan for the rest of Series 10. And folks, that wraps it up for Middle-earth Map Monday. Now, I'll eventually go back to Mailbag Mondays at some point, so if you have any questions, please email them to barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Be sure to let Barliman know that your question is for today's Tolkien Times. To those of you who support the show on Patreon, thank you again. Your support gives me the ability to invest the time and resources into writing, producing, and recording these episodes. If you're not yet supporting the show, please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times. You can join the TTT Content Council, help decide what I'm going to talk about, get a bonus episode every week, and more. And then join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for a brand new Tuesday series. Podcast listeners, please be sure to subscribe to the TTT in your podcast apps. For those on YouTube, subscribe to this channel to get all of the PPP productions, as we eventually bring all 9 seasons of the PPP over here in video form, along with both seasons of the Rings of Power wrap-up, along with the 450 episodes of this show or so, and my new streaming project, The PPP Plays. And be sure you're following @PrancingPonyPod on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and simply The Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.